What is up, guys? It is Quinn here, and in this video, I'm going to be going through my final video for Week 18. It's going to be my tight end start sits, so going through every single Week 18 matchup, talking about every fantasy relevant tight end, and then listing them as either starts, fringe options, or sits. The starts are the tight ends you feel pretty confident with. Obviously, at the tight end position, you're probably only locked in on Kelsey week to week, but in general, these are guys you decently trust in your lineup. Fringe options, these are going to be more of your back end tight end ones, and then your high end tight end twos, and then sits. These are guys that I would prefer to leave on the bench. If you guys enjoy the content, do me a huge favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. But let's jump into the Chiefs-Raiders matchup. Like I mentioned at the top, Travis Kelsey, lock that man in as a start. The Chiefs need to win this game, so he should be, have 100% of his normal role. Then on the other side for the Raiders, Darren Waller's a guy whose name value and even his performance so far since his return kind of indicates that he should be a locked-in start. The issue is his usage has just not been good. He continues to be outsnapped by Foster Moreau. He's not playing his full set of snaps. So I think he's probably like a high-end fringe play, but I don't know if he's like a top 8 tight end week to week. The role just hasn't really improved, which is a little bit, concerning heading into a fantasy championship. Moving over to the Titans-Jaguars game. For the Titans, I'm going to be sitting Okonkwo. He's had some decent games. I just don't really want to be bought into this offense, basically aside from like Derrick Henry and then maybe a little bit of Treylon Burks. On the other side for the Jaguars, I know Evan Ingram, kind of had a down day, but still, like Trevor Lawrence pulled at halftime. I like this matchup here against the Titans. I'd be totally fine going back to the well here with Evan Ingram. Looking at the Buccaneers Falcons matchup, in my opinion, there's really not a ton going on here. I've been someone who's kind of been banging on the table for Cade Otton to get like a full set of workload, and he kind of has over the past 2 weeks. He just really has underperformed. He's had some drops. He's had some penalties. He doesn't know where he's supposed to be. So not ideal, and definitely not someone that we can be trusting heading into a fantasy championship. And then for the Falcons, no Kyle Pitts. Just nothing going on here. So sitting Michael Pruitt. Looking at the Patriots taking on the Bills, I actually have Hunter Henry as a fringe option. I believe we saw Jonnu Smith miss week 17. And with Jonnu Smith out, Hunter Henry just took on a massive workload. He basically ran, close to 100% route participation. That's great to see. So assuming that Jonnu Smith misses again, I think Hunter Henry's probably a top 12 tight end at worst, right on the outside looking in. And then for the Bills, just got to continue to ride the hot hand with Dawson Knox, another guy with very strong week-to-week route participation and someone who has the touchdown upside on a top offense. Looking at the Vikings taking on the Bears, right now it looks like the Vikings are going to be playing full strength. I guess hoping the 49ers take an L and then they can slide into that number 2 spot. So as of right now, I do have TJ Hawkinson as a start. And then for the Bears, Cole Kmet as a fringe option. I think he got into the end zone in week 17. Not someone you love, but in terms of a high-end tight end too, I think he slots in pretty comfortably there. Looking at the Ravens taking on the Bengals, for Mark Andrews, I have him as a start. Obviously, if Lamar plays, you feel a lot more confident about him. He's probably more of a high-end tight end one, whereas without Lamar, more of like a mid-tier option. For the Bengals, Hayden Hurst, have him as a fringe option, like high-end tight end two. He's suited up for, what they did play of that game. He had a catch, had a hurdle, so it looks like he's back. He's healthy. Someone who I like as a fringe option, high-end tight end two play. Looking at the Lions taking on the Packers. Then looking at the Lions taking on the Packers, we saw Brock Wright get into the end zone twice, I believe. I think that's back-to-back weeks where you've had like random tight ends on the Lions score twice. I think Zylstra did it 2 weeks ago in week 16. There's still not a player here that, I want to be relying on consistently. And then same thing on the other side for the Packers, going to be sitting Robert Tonyan. Looking at the Texans taking on the Colts, both of these guys pretty clear sits. Sitting Jordan Akins and sitting Jelani Woods, although I do think Jelani Woods does have a pretty bright future. Looking at the Jets taking on the Dolphins, for the Jets, they went back to this tight end by committee. Conklin and Ozama are splitting routes in an offense that I don't really trust. Just can't be throwing tight ends into my starting lineup when they're splitting opportunities. And then for the Dolphins, Mike Gesicki, has really just kind of struggled in to have a solid role all season long, so he is going to remain a sit. Looking at the Panthers taking on the Saints. For the Panthers, I think Tommy Tremble got into the end zone this past week. Still not someone we can think about starting. And then per usual, I have both of these Saints tight ends, Taysom Hill and Juwan Johnson. Both of those guys are going to be fringe options. Taysom Hill continues to see a solid workload, just kind of a random workload, carries, pass attempts, potential targets. So I like him as a fringe play. And then same thing for Juwan Johnson, who has been giving you pretty solid production this season. Looking at the Giants taking on the Eagles, definitely like Dallas Goedert as a start here. And then on the other side, going to be sitting Daniel Bellinger. We have the Browns taking on the Steelers. And with Deshaun Watson not exactly, playing at a super high level, struggling to support these guys with volume, I don't think we can have David Njoku any higher than a fringe option. And then on the other side for the Steelers, I think Pat Freiermuth is a solid, back end start play somewhere in that tight end 7, tight end 8 area. Looking at the Cowboys taking on the Commanders, Dalton Schultz had a few down games in a row, but I kept saying, the usage is good. The raw participation is still there. He's on a good offense. He'll have a breakout. He balls out in week 17. Definitely like him as a start. And then for the Commanders, going to be sitting Logan Thomas, who did actually have a decent game, but not someone that we want to be relying on in the fantasy championships. Looking at the Chargers taking on the Broncos. At this point, Gerald Everett, not looking like a great play. They want to spread the ball around. He's not dominating the, tight end usage. So he's going to be a sit. And then, kind of coming out of nowhere, Alberto with Greg Dulcich going on IR. He had been the young breakout tight end. I was pretty high on Alberto coming into the season. With Hackett as the coach, and Greg Dulcich having that breakout, he had basically been relegated to a healthy scratch. He steps in, plays a solid role, gives you a good game. I think it's good to see in terms of long-term purposes, dynasty, but in terms of redraft, not someone who I want to be throwing into my lineup. Then looking at the Rams taking on the Seahawks, Tyler Higbee, he had that massive game in week 16, took a little bit of a step back. Obviously, you kind of have to. Still someone who I think is a fringe option, but definitely not a locked-in top 10 guy. And then for the Seahawks, they continue to operate with a tight end by committee, even with Will Dissly out. Now they're giving Colby Parkinson, more opportunities than Noah Fant. You don't love to see it. Both of those guys are sits. And then the 16th matchup here, Cardinals taking on the 49ers. Good to see for Trey McBride. Went out, had his best game of the season. Now, even though he's coming off of that big game, he's still going to be a sit for me. Don't love this Cardinals offense. Obviously a tough matchup here against the 49ers, so McBride will be a sit. And then for the 49ers, they need to win this game to lock up the number 2 seed. So going to be rolling with George Kittle as a very solid start. That's going to be all 16 matchups. If you all enjoyed, do me a huge favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I have all my other start sit videos out, so running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, those are all posted. Go check those out. Good luck to all of you on your fantasy matchups. If you have any questions throughout the week, drop them down below. I believe that is everything. Thank you all for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one.